How are you? We are coming at you from our home tonight. This is Jennifer from Broken to Blessed and my husband Tim.
Hi.
We're just wanting to talk to you a little bit about marriage, and there's so many different aspects and things we could talk about. So we're just going to kind of play it by ear, and this is our first video from our home. So we're just going to kind of play it by ear tonight and just see where the Lord takes us. But I know one thing we want to talk about is how you can let your wife know that she is loved unconditionally, especially when she comes from like a broken background.
Well, that's just kind of like, you do it every day. It's an everyday thing. You have to build that. They're not going to know right away. I mean, you can... What? Jim? What in the heck?
I just got this tickle in my nose.
It's like the first time it's ever happened.
What?
Like the first time it's ever happened.
I didn't do it when we were taping.
Let's finish going.
What?
Let's get going.
So okay.
Okay, let's talk serious now. Welcome to Broken to Blessed. I'm Tim Hill.
And I'm Jennifer Hill. And this is kind of what marriage looks like. It just kind of explodes everywhere sometimes. Okay, honey, you were saying what?
I have no idea.
About how you show...
You got to show your wife every day. In the beginning, I love you doesn't really mean much to a woman who's never been shown any love. She's just used to rejection, waiting for the next shoe to drop. But it's just a consistent day-to-day reassuring that you do love her.
Yes. And you got to, I think, your actions, you got to show her how much you love her. You can't just, words to me, because I heard, I'm sorry, and I love you, and I'll never do it again, and I just heard so many words that were absolutely nothing. They were false, and I think you really have to show. So what are some ways that, husbands can show their wives?
Well, we were praying about what we were going to talk about for the show, and I got this earlier. When your spouse is stuck in a spot, and like abuse, I mean, they're stuck in a spot where they're not going forward at all. They're just kind of existing. Mm-hmm. And just like, husbands, they get stuck in a spot. Bad things happen, layoffs, and the other spouse just has to come alongside them and take up the slack. And that's where a lot of marriages go sour, because the other person doesn't want to come alongside and take up the slack. They just wait for you to do it.
But that's unconditional love. When when the one spouse can't pick themselves up and carry on if they're in depression or whatever because of a job layoff, or a mother can be in postpartum depression and just can't even hardly get out of bed. There's just so many different things, but that is unconditional love, is being there, you standing up when the other one can't stand up. And then helping the other one stand up eventually. Pull each other back up. And I know you have to help a woman understand that just because she wasn't loved by her parents or by possibly another spouse or something, that doesn't mean that you don't love her. That doesn't define who she is just because they didn't think well of her, to love her unconditionally.
It takes a while to let an abused woman know who you are, and to get to know them really, because they're so closed up to everybody, and they've lived so closed up that that's all that's in their world. They'll interact with friends, with family, but they're so closed off, even or in a group of people. So it takes a while to even open them up, to get to know them.
Yes.
To get them to trust you.
Yeah, because you can laugh and cut up and get along with everyone and even enjoy your company, but you are very closed off. You have walls built up all around you, and I think it took a very long time for you to eventually knock all those walls down.
It took quite a while.
Yeah.
It's just like abuse victims. You can look in a whole crowd of people and see this, like I saw, this beautiful, well-dressed, perfect hair, perfect everything, and think, she had everything. And when I first met her, and then to find out that she goes home to abuse and just being put down, and you don't know abuse victims by looking at them. There's small. I mean, she can pick one out of the crowd easily, and with her discernment and where she's been through it. But just someone who's never been through it, you can't pick that out. I mean, you just have to listen for different signs in them.
Yeah. If you know what to look for and know what to listen for, the words that they speak, and more importantly, the words that they don't speak, then you can pick up on it. But and like you said, if you're someone that has been a victim of abuse, like I was, for so many years of my life, you pick up on it a lot faster. But talking about this, it makes me think that for your wife to learn that you love her unconditionally, if she comes from such a betrayed and broken background, it has to start in her mind. You have to get her mind right, because her mind is so full of the polluted thoughts, the garbage thoughts. And you put garbage in, if it goes into you all day, every day, that's what's going to come out. So I guess you had to help me get the garbage out and put the Word of God in.
Well, I was reading this scripture earlier too, but you saying that, talks about husbands in Ephesians 5:25. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and give herself up for him. And I just messed that up. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, so that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word. So that's exactly what you just said. Yes. You're not only showing yourself to them, you got to show the Lord, because even though you knew the Lord, in the back of your mind, a father to you was something that was abusive.
Or someone that left and abandoned you. Yeah. And, the victory in your mind, you got to read the scriptures, you got to read the word, and you got to put it in you constantly. And yeah, you hear his words and you listen to his words, but you got to put the word of God constantly in your mouth and in your mind, and speak them out your mouth. So, with that being said, I know there's probably many of you out there that you have so many wrong thoughts about you. And that's what we would encourage you to do, is if you're a husband, take her to the Lord, take her to the Word, let her see herself the way God sees her. You adore her, you build her up too, with your words. And then if you're a wife, go to the Word of God and find out how the Lord feels about you, and believe your husband. I know it's hard. You don't want to believe anyone, the compliments and all the flattery. A lot of times it's just been lies, but now this is the man of God, that God has put you with, and you got to believe him. You got to start trusting him. What he says is right.
I know with us, I got really discouraged because, the trust issue was a really big thing, because you didn't believe what I said. Someone could tell you look beautiful and you're just so impressed, and I could say the same thing and it meant nothing to you. And we still work on that. But
well, because I feel like he has to. That's what the devil will put in your mind. Oh, he's your husband. He has to do it. He has to, compliment you. But no, really, he doesn't. He doesn't have to do that. So he chooses to do that. So I have to choose to believe him when he says it.
And I think that's just the way society is with the shows and stuff on TV, and how it portrays men. And a lot of wives see their husbands the way, as the world, the way. But that's not a godly marriage. The husband is supposed to support, to encourage her, and she's supposed to accept and receive these things.
Yes, absolutely. And there are little things that a husband can do. I can think of so many things that you've done over the years. Roses, or come to my door on my birthday, and my birthday was never celebrated really as a kid. It was just another day. Or come home with me something, or like I just said about a year and a half or so ago, you know, I would love to have a new dining room set. And he goes out and finds, it wasn't brand new, but you know, it was new to me on Craigslist, this really nice dining room set. And I'm not even expecting it. I just said, you know, it'd be nice to have this. And as soon as it comes out my mouth, he's already on the ball looking for it, whatever I want, trying to make it happen. And you know, that's love. That's unconditional love when you're just waiting for her to say what she needs, what she wants, and you're ready that fast to do it. And same, you know, vice versa. Same for the wife to do for the husband.
Yeah, because, you know, these days marriage is kind of a drive-through thing, you know, drive-through window. You just, if it doesn't work out fast enough for you and times get hard, you know, just go on to the next one for your next fast food drive-through.
Yes.
I mean, with us, I mean, nowhere near a perfect marriage. Marriages aren't perfect because everyone is going to have their tests and their trials. You're two different people, come from two different backgrounds, and then when you throw, you know, what you've been through with the abuse, and it just, my thing that I got from the Lord today when we were talking about this is, you know, stay through, even when you're having hard times. I'm not talking about abuse, you know, and someone going out on you, but I'm talking about when you're not getting along and you're fighting and it just keeps happening and happening. Because I know there was a time in our marriage, you know, we had a really hard time, and, you know, thoughts would come, maybe we just need to end this.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say to people that's watching today about that is, you know, just keep showing up. You know, even if you have to go through the motions, even if you decide of the person you can't hardly stand, because that'll pass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nothing ever stays the same. And you give up this whole relationship over a year or two that you just didn't see eye to eye on something.
Yes.
It will pass if you just keep showing up, because what we have, a lot of people don't have. And that is, you know, I have the wife of my youth. We have the history. We have all these years that we can look back on, that we, you know, growing together. And I know there's a lot of people, you know, may watch that's in their second marriage or something, and, you know, that's good for you. But I'm talking to people, you know, that encouraging people not to give up, you know, just because things are getting hard. Things will change. Your life never stays the same if you look back. It's always changed. I just say, just keep showing up.
And it's easy to want to just walk out, you know, especially for somebody from my background, because, you know, when we went through this couple years of a hard time a few years back, you know, I've been through so much hurt and so much pain in my life already, so I can even justify it in my mind. I don't have to put up with this. I don't have to take this. And nobody was cheating on each other, or there was no abuse of any kind. It was just a really hard time in our marriage that I think, if everyone is honest, we've all had them. And, you know, but the hurt, the pain was just too much, and I can even justify it, you know. Well, look what I've lived through already. I shouldn't have to put up with this. But then to give all of this up for a year and a half or so of arguing and fighting would have been ludicrous. I mean, you know, you just don't throw, at that time, like 16 years of marriage away, and now we've just celebrated in this past December 22 years. You know, if we would have just threw all that away.
And there's a lot of destinies that's gotten canceled out because people do throw it away because they can't. You just see it as a wall, and you can't see past that wall, and you think it's just the end. There's no way around. But God is the way maker. He will, you know, break down any wall that gets built up by the enemy. The enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But he comes to bring life, and he will bring life back into your marriage, back into your lives. And like I said, we're not talking about abuse. We're not talking about adultery.
Yes.
You know, we're talking about just you know, how many times have you heard we just couldn't get along, or we couldn't see eye to eye? You know, me and her, exact opposites.
Yes, we are polar opposites.
Exact opposites. So
we are proof that opposites attract.
So not seeing eye to eye, that's a regular thing around here.
Yes.
but we've learned to deal with it. Opposites do attract because
He's the thinker, he's the planner, he's the, oh, let's just think about all this and plan on it. And I'm like, let's jump on it, let's do it. No planning, no thinking, let's just get on. So yeah, we are night and day.
I'm hot, you're cold.
Yeah.
So-
Yep. Every aspect.
So the excuse opposites, where we were two opposites, we couldn't see, didn't have anything in common. We're proof that that's a lie.
Yes. Yeah. And you don't want someone, or I don't, that's just exactly like you, because that would get very boring. And I'm a person that gets bored really easy anyway, so, I'm glad we're opposite. So, that boredom doesn't creep in. But I can't get off this, even as we're talking about this doing things for your wife to show her. These little gifts, these little notes, that you can leave her, little letters you can leave her, a single rose, in the morning before you leave for work. Just these little gestures to show her, especially if she is a wife that has been brutally broken. She needs to know how special and how genuine your love is for her and how special she is to you. And I'm just going to say this, men, you don't just shower your wife with love and show her love in the bedroom. You got to show her love in every area of life. That's what you have to do. You shower her with love continually.
My big thing was, if I can't do something big, then I'm not going to do it. But it's the small things, like before you go to work, leave a letter on the counter. Mm-hmm. Just small things like that. It's especially when you're first trying to bring out of that abuse mindset. It's the little things here or there. It really, really makes a difference.
Yeah, he used to write me poetry a lot, which I miss. But you change, you grow older, and you have more responsibility and other things to do. But that was something in the beginning of our marriage. He would write me a lot of poetry, and it was just, that he took the time to sit down and write this and do this. It was just really sweet. So, anyway, I guess we're going to wrap it up. And, these are just going to be little, 10, 15-minute videos, maybe sometimes